Hi everyone, it's Plastic EP coming in from Melbourne, Australia, and coming in from the UK is Sabine, the fabulous Sabine. But let me tell you, one of the Hollywood greats on the greatest TV show that ever was, Happy Days. We have Donny most, and we love you, Donny. I want you to know that.
Oh, thank you so much, Plastic. It's much appreciate that. Much appreciated.
Happy Days culturally changed Australia and even the UK because it became part of the family. It's one of those shows where it just took over your life. And I can tell you, going to high school, every time Happy Days was on, everyone was watching every single episode, including when Susie Quattro was on, right?
Oh yeah,
and that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And we love the show, and we love the characters, and we love the people. And I tell you, Australia loves you, Donny. Make no mistake. And we hope you come to Australia and sing. That's what we really want.
I would love that. I'm hoping that can happen. I've been talking to somebody about a tour, but I haven't heard back. So hopefully that'll come to fruition. That would be great.
Well, we'll try and push that for you. But as I said, I want everyone to know, right? It's just come on the internet today. Your friend, the Fonz, right? Henry Winkler is coming to Melbourne, Australia, right, on Thursday, the 15th of February at 7:30 p.m. at the Melbourne Arts Centre, and he's going to be answering questions, and he's going to do a book signing. And don't we love the Fonz? And the Fonz and Ralph the Mouse, you guys made the show. There's no question. What I love, that you do a lot of singing on the show too, and you're one of the coolest characters on the show. I mean, it just like blows my mind. Because even I look at you, how many people come up to you and go, how you going, Ralph the Mouth? You can't get away from fame, can you?
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. That's a great thing. And, you know, at times it was tricky, you know, when you wanted to do other kinds of roles and different kinds of genres. So that was a little tricky. But I kept chipping away at that and doing different things, and it started opening up, and I'm been able to do a lot of different kinds of characters now. So it's great.
I just got to ask you, with your singing career, Don, at the moment, where can people find your music? That's the big question. And what are you doing there? You're doing live shows.
Oh, so first of all, on iTunes, the CD is called New York High, the new CD, and people can download it on iTunes. But it's also on Apple Music and Spotify, so you can, or YouTube, so people could get it on those streaming services as well. Live performances, I was doing those more so leading up to about this last year, but then I got very busy doing a bunch of films, so I had to put the live music aside. And I moved. My wife and I, we moved away from Los Angeles to be closer to our daughter. And so we're in Colorado now. So I had to put the music on, the live performances on hold. But now I'm getting ready. I'm hoping to get back out there again soon.
Well, I hope you come to the UK, Don, because as I mentioned, you're at number 9 in the Heritage chart at the moment. And, you know, things go up, down, go up again. You know, I vote for you every week for the Heritage chart every Sunday. And we would love to see you over here in the UK. I can see you at a number of venues in the West End. So would you consider that, please, for next year?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to do that as well. Tony Mantor, my manager and producer, he's been talking to some people in the UK and trying to put something together. So, yeah, I would love that very much. Hopefully that will happen soon too.
Excellent. A Q&A kind of event.
Yeah, combining the music with the Q&A, some stories, you know, all of that kind of stuff.
And I love your album.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's great to hear.
You need to do a world tour where you can come to Australia, go to the UK, meet the fans, meet the people, and people can realize that you're such a fantastic singer. And the fact that you work at your art and you're creative, to me, that's what really matters. Because I said to you, this is the second interview I've done with you, and you've gone leaps and bounds in what you're doing. And that isn't that every day you wake up and you're spreading joy and happiness to the world and you're singing a song. I mean, what more can you do? 2023 and move on from here to try and do a tour in 2024. I think that would make a lot of people happy.
Oh wow, I love to hear what you're saying. I love the sentiment, and I sure hope it could all come together. You know, it sounds like, oh, okay, well, just can't you just put a tour together? And I wish it was that easy. You know, it as you know, it's a little bit more difficult. So, but you know, we're working on it, and I have high hopes for that.
You guys are also amazingly talented. You know, after Happy Days, and look at Ron, you know, being big wig producer, and Henry, you know, doing his inspirational talks in schools and all kinds of other things. I've seen him over here in Hook the Musical.
Oh, right. I did a two-parter of Star Trek Voyager some years ago, and that was a lot of fun. Very different role. Played sort of you know, the bad guy, a doctor who was sort of the villain of the two-parter. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah. And then I was on Glee. I had a recurring role on Glee, and a lot of other TV shows, and independent films. Very much so. I've been doing a lot of those, which I love, and I just finished one not too long ago where it's based on a true story in the 1920s, during Prohibition and the bootlegging, and I played the head of one of the it was a real mob called the Purple Gang, and it was a Jewish mob, and I played the head of the mob. So again, a very different role, and so I'm enjoying that very much as well, and the singing.
Amazing.
Of course.
Are you from a musical family?
My mom, you know, loved music, and but she wasn't really a singer. But my grandfather, my father's side, he used to love to entertain, and he would sing. So maybe I got that from that gene from him. But otherwise, not really.
Growing up right here in Australia, as I said, and going to high school and watching Happy Days, and that being the biggest show of Australia, believe me, that was the biggest show. Like the Brady Bunch, like the Partridge Family, right? Even the Monkeys, right? I'm trying to tell you the biggest shows. The Happy Days, once that started, the theme song, it took you back to the 50s, and it was so believable that being families like children and parents, they all felt part of the show. Now, I've got to say, Happy Days has never gone away, that show, right? It's in syndication. But at the height of Happy Days, tell me what it must have been like waking up every day and, like, you know, there's this Happy Days mania happening in your life. I mean, it must have been the time of your life that like can never be repeated.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way it was. Although, you know, in the beginning, the first season, the show did well. It was sort of it wasn't a huge hit in the first season, but it was doing very well. But in the second season, the ratings, we started going down, and there was some concern whether we would even go on to do another season. But then we started shooting the show in front of an audience, and it wasn't like that the first two seasons. And then once we did that, and then the Fonz character became much, you know, a much bigger part of the show. And then that's when it started shooting up, and we became number one. And that's when it got kind of crazy. And it was like your world has just turned and shifted completely, like you're in the Twilight Zone.
Anyway, Don, I want to say with your music now, you're planning now another album?
Nothing in the works right now. You know, I did one about 5-6 years ago called Mostly Swinging, and now this one, New York High. I think we're just, you know, concentrating on promoting this one and getting it out there, and then we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another one, but we don't have it planned at this point.
Tell me now, your biggest influences in music growing up.
Okay, good question, because Sabine was sort of asking that. Where did I find, you know, how did the singing start? Since I wasn't really from a musical family. When I was 9 years old, I saw the movie The Jolson Story, which was a biopic about the great Al Jolson, who was actually did the first talking movie called The Jazz Singer in 1927. So I saw the biopic about Jolson, and I became really enthralled with him and his music and that style of music. And I started buying his records, and then I started getting an education of that genre, and started listening on the radio in New York City, where I grew up, to a station that would play all of the great singers, doing those jazz standards. And I really developed a passion for that. And then I started pursuing acting and singing when I was 13, but it was singing that I really came first. And I wound up getting to be in this nightclub review when I was 15 years old, in a resort area upstate New York, singing in the nightclubs. And then after Jolson, it was, of course, Sinatra and Nat King Cole and Ella Fitzgerald and all of and Tony Bennett, but especially Bobby Darin. I really became a huge Darin fan. I got to see him at the Copacabana nightclub in New York when I was 18, and so Darin became a huge influence for me, as well as a lot of the other jazz singers.
I'm glad that you're into jazz, but I want to say now, since we're talking as friends, I'm more a Dean Martin fan than I am of Frank Sinatra, because I grew up here in Australia more with Dean Martin because of the movies. Like, in other words, Sinatra was more a serious actor. There's that's New York Frank Sinatra there, right? She's helping with the pictures. Now, what I'm saying is, growing up here, Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin, you couldn't get better than them, right? Like, they were #1 comedy. And Dean was always the crooner. And as I said, I grew up more on Dean. What about yourself?
No, I really love Dean as well. I used to watch it. He had a TV show here in the States, a variety show I think it was Thursday nights. I just remembered that. So I used to watch that every week. And I mean, I've heard that from other people. There's a debate. Who did you like better, Frank or Dean? I've heard that that argument before. But yeah, I mean, I love Dean too. But I probably listened to Frank a little bit more, I'd say. And Bobby especially. I had all of his albums, and I used to sing along with both of them. And Sammy Davis Jr. I was a big fan of, and like I said, some of the really good, like Joe Williams, who was the singer with the Count Basie band, and some of the blues guys I liked a lot. So and then a lot of just instrumental jazz. I listened to a lot of that as well.
But I gotta ask you, the singers and the groups, like the pop groups of the 60s, who really influenced you?
Oh gosh, I also loved the music of the 60s and early 70s, what we call classic rock. I loved a lot of that. It was just but that was more for listening. It wasn't the music that I would perform. You know what I mean? It was just, but I loved it. So I mean, gosh, there were so many groups that I loved, and probably some of the ones that had a bit of a jazz influence, like Chicago and Blood, Sweat, and Tears, because they had a little bit of a jazz element to them. But then I also loved, groups like the Eagles and the Beatles, of course, and the Rolling Stones, and so many others. That, gosh, I'm trying to think of any of the other singers. I mean, I loved Elton John and who did I went to see? I'm trying to think of some of my first concerts that I went to, in college and stuff. The group Traffic I used to listen to, but again, they had a jazz component in there. in their music. And then there were a lot of other groups too.
Loving Spoonful.
Yeah, I like them. That was more in the that was more in the pop genre. That was earlier '60s. I liked them, but I particularly started getting into the music of the later '60s and early '70s and mid '70s.
Now, I just want to say, we want everybody to vote for your song, right, in the Heritage chart. There in the UK, it's at number 9. Let's get it right up there and try and get it to number 1, everyone that's watching this show. And Sabine's got that there. She wants to show you. That's the Heritage chart there, T-shirt she's got. Come back, you're back on.
I just saw it.
Number 9. And as I said, here in Australia and all over the world, we want everyone to go to all the music platforms and just go through the links one more time with us, Don.
Yeah, that people could on iTunes. You can download it on iTunes, and then Spotify, Apple Music. I think it's on Amazon as well, and YouTube for sure.
Well, Don, we just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and I want you to know, and this is true, you got to understand.
Excellent.
Well,
Australia loves you, the UK loves you, and the world loves you. You got no idea what a big legacy you've done on TV, and that is every day is happening. And you know what? I'll tell you what, when you walk down the street, if someone calls you Ralph the Mouth, like they love you. That's what it is.
Yeah, I totally understand that, and I appreciate everything you're saying, and Sabine, you as well.
I just want to say, Don, it's just like amazing when you look back at your childhood, like at high school, and I'm watching Happy Days, and I see it today, and just the love comes out. It's an honor to talk to you. And I mean that sincerely, more than you think.
Yeah, it really is.
I appreciate that so much, really. Thank you very much.
New York is getting me high. Girls by the Store Club have been catching my eye. Moonbeams dance on a Waldorf hotel. Could it be I've fallen under a New York spell? Downtown Manhattan's like a shower of stars, shining reflections of those New York bars. George M. Cohan, another Times Square sky. Could it be I'm dancing on a New York high? Norman Rockwell, you're the most. Ain't me in the picture post. Oh, New York, you've opened my eyes. Stepping out on Broadway, and I'm high as the skies. Rogers and Hammerstein, and it's plain to see why.